So the Maamer ki Yisholcha bincha, and behemshich lezeh, also the Maamer of Avayli ba'oizri. So that's the sugya of Eidus Chukim and Mishpatim. So bichlal, the sugya of Eidus Chukim and Mishpatim, I believe I mentioned it last time, so it's la'orko l'rachva of the Rebbe's Torah, right? Ad kekach that Rabbi Yomi all koivitz out of it. But in Klali, you look at the Sichis, which is the primary source where a lot of these Inyanim are, and many of the Sichis, and Maamer as well. But in Klali, we speak about Chukim and Mishpatim. Right, and Bepashtos, Chukim is Kabbalah Seil, Mishpatim is Seichel. Now, Chukim and Mishpatim, it's not just the Inyan, we get to mitzvahs, two kinds of mitzvahs that we understand, mitzvahs that we don't understand. It's Bechlal two kinds of relationships to the Eibishter. A relationship that's built off Tam B'das, and a relationship that's L'mayla Mitam B'das. In Lashna, it's in the Kabbalah, Mimala and Soiviv. The Eibishter that we understand, and the Eibishter that we don't understand. Eidos, very often, is not part of the equation. In the Sichis, almost all the places of Vaseretzach their sugya, it's a chukim and mishpatim. You have many chukah sichis that speak about it. You have many sichis in the first halakim, was written wegen der Inyan. And then the kud is the two sides of Yiddishkeit, the bittul and Kabbalah Sel versus the Tamadas, the Seichel, the Kesher, the Avavira, right? The Keiches Primi versus Keiches Makif. But in these Maamarim, the Maamer are trying to figure out what's Eidos, right? That's really the struggle, and that's the destination. And we take Eidos, which seems to be sort of a third wheel, right? Where it's like, okay, Chukim and Mishpatim are two sides of the coin. What's Eidos? Somewhere in the middle. We wouldn't come to our own seichel, but once they should tell us, it makes sense, and it's right. So it seems to be somewhat in the middle. And there we see the different questions are brought in the Maamer, that Ebazoi, why is the Seder Eidos Chukim Mishpatim? How does Eidos come before Chukim and Mishpatim? It should be in the middle. Right? And this leads us to the point where we see that Eidos is Hecher von Alts. Right? And the Lashon of Kabbalah and Chassidus, Mimala Soiviv Atzmos. Right? At the end of the day, the Tachlis is Atzmos. So Mimala is connected Mishpatim, Soiviv is connected Chukim, and then Eidos is Atzmos. Now, how is Eidos Atzmos, other than being, we don't know what it is, so let it be Atzmos. Right, so we have this Inyan that Eidos is said on something that's not Begolui, and not only something that's not Begolui, something that's not Milsa Davida Ligolui, because even on that, there's no reason to say Eidos. So Golui is Memale. Avida Ligolui is Soiviv, because through Memale, Medegrech the Soiviv. And then Atzmos is Eine Golui Klau. Fine, so that's a general sort of connection of how Eidos is Mar al Atzmos. But what does it actually mean? Eidos is Mar al Atzmos, and what is it in our Avodah, and how does it work L'mayla? And who is the Eid? What is the Eidos? So Bo'evin Klali, here in the Maamer, so in two places we discuss Eidos, and who the Eid is, what is the Eidos, seems to be two different things. But then it all comes together. So what are the two Inyanim? So one is in the second half of Sif Dalid, and then is Sif Vav. So in the second half of Sif Dalid, he speaks about, there's on page 7 of the Koivitz, Zeu Inyan Eidos Shebemitzvahs. There's the Seichel of mitzvahs, and then there's the Bittul, the Shlila. But then there's Atzmos Seir Nitzoif. And he says that Atzmos Seir Nitzoif, we can't be Mamshich Atzmos, not through Mishpatim, which means not through a relationship built off Tamadas. We sort of, the Eibishter makes sense to us, we understand him, and by extension, the mitzvahs. Right? Why would a person do mitzvahs? Because it's the most amazing thing. Mitzvahs are geschmack, mitzvahs make sense. You go to any constitution that exists out there in the world, and any Bill of Rights and laws, mitzvahs is the most logical. And Taki, you see, it's not just an abstract concept, right? Historically, we know that tzedek v'yoisher and many of the laws that exist today all over the world can be sourced back to Mishpat Torah, right? The world acknowledges the Bible as the shoyrish of tzedek v'yoisher. So you can understand that Torah mitzvahs make sense. That's Mishpatim. Then there's a hechra even where no, it's not that Torah mitzvahs make sense. It's not that it's geschmack and it creates a just society. Of course it does, but that's not the word. Verkehrt, we versteht es nicht. We can es nicht verstehen. There's something here beyond. It's Ratzin. The Yisholcha is Ratzin. We don't understand it. We don't get it. So why do we do it? We do it mitzad bittul. Mitzad sich weglegen. Übergeben. Right? If you're attacking a Kabbalah Machal Shamayim, you do what he says. But because that's shlila, you're being shoylel your seichel, and you're acknowledging something lo shalamayla mea seichel. So it's the Eibush not this can shaychus nicht. Because by the Eibush there, your metzias is not tefes makim, and your bittul is not tefes makim. So was yeah, edus. So in edus of the mitzvahs, that what's in the kud of edus, that the mitzvahs are mamshichim u megalim helam atzmi da atzmi serin seif shalamayla gam yiseviv. And at the end of the keta, the kol mitzvahs nikroim edus, fishe mamshichim u megalim atzmi serin seif shalamayla gam yiseviv. It's a whole different word. It's not about memale and it's not about soiviv. What are the mitzvahs? The mitzvahs are mamshich u megala atzmi serin seif. Now, he doesn't really explain it that much, right? There's the Oishis Hasbara, he says the Vart. But what's the Nikud? The Nikud is, if we look at mitzvahs coming from Mimale or Soiviv, then we're looking at mitzvahs not coming from the Eibishter himself. It's the Eibishter as he relates to us. Bezeguf and Tuifan, one Oifan that Imamish is yoyred to our Gdarim, to Seder Ishtalshlos, Mimale Kolom, and Atzilis, Chabad, Chagas, in our world. And then there's mitzad ratzin, right? We even call it chukim will connect to ratzin, right? This is very similar to the last Maamer of Purim, Akin Karu. It's mitzad ratzin. This is what the Eibishter wants, and we do it. But this is what the Eibishter wants. Ratzin is the bala ratzin. It's not him himself. The ratzin's already a tenuah, so it's epis hashayches to nivroim, to us. But when you say that the mitzvahs are Megale Atzmus and say the Lashon, the Helama Atzmi, then you're saying it's the Eibishter himself. Mitzvahs is an expression of the Eibishter himself. Not him as he relates to us in a way of Chiyuv and a way of Shlila. Rather, Erale. Fine. So that's what he says in Sif Gimel. But then he comes in Sif Vav, in the end of Sif Dalet. Then he comes in Sivav, he says, just like L'mayla, the chiluk of Eidus Chukim HaMishpatim, is that this is that Chukim HaMishpatim is Eidus Shayach Lo Ilamis, Mimala, and Soiv. And Eidus is in Atzmos, Al Derech Zeh is Oichit in Avodas HaAdam. The Chukim HaMishpatim are in Seichel HaAdam, or at least in the level that's Shayach to Seichel, Ispaininos. And he explains the different Ifanim in Ispaininos by Mishpatim and Chukim. But Eidos is in the Adam Atzmai. So this is an interesting point. It's a new twist to the whole Havana Se'inyiv. Because, so first of all, interesting how he starts Sivav, that just like L'mayla, the Chiluk Veidos Chut Mishpatim, Al Derech Zeh, what's Lashon in Avodah. Al Derech Zeh Gam Avodas Adam. The Chayra, earlier on in the Maamer, we also speak about Avodas Adam. It's not like in the earlier Sifim, he only speaks to Malu Seviv and Atzmos, and now in Avodas Adam. No, and what's in Avodah? But previously, he also spoke about Avodas Adam. He spoke about Mishpatim, is connected to the Eibishter with your Seichel, and Soiviv, you have to mevatel your Seichel, Shlilas Seichel. So what's about Avodas Adam? Because what we were missing in the earlier Sif, we don't have here is in regards to Eidus. When you get to Chukim and Mishpatim, we spoke about where the human being enters this parsha in Chukim and Mishpatim. Use your seichel, your shayla, your seichel. But where is the Adam? Who is the mensch when you get to Eidos? How do you? Where do we enter that parsha? Now, without Sivav, what could have I said? It's not about you, right? Let's go back a second. The vart of Eidos is that it's Helamatzim. Okay, so what does that mean, practically? So Mela, so what? What does that mean in mitzvahs? That Helamatzim, that Atzmos is in the mitzvahs, Uvemela what? Uvemela vas. So you do the mitzvahs. So you don't do the mitzvahs from a sense of, that it makes sense. You don't do a mitzvahs from a place of Kabbalah, so rather, the vart is, rather you do it because it's Ratzin Atzmos. Right, so it's very similar Maamer, very similar, but also very different. You look at, hey, Margala. Right? With there also he speaks about different dargas. There he calls it a bit different. There he speaks about a level of Rosa de Liba, Kabbalah Soil, and Asiyas HaMitzvah. And he speaks, and he taka says that Rosa de Liba and higher, when you come to the end of Kabbalah Soil, a person gets a chibur in ganz into the Ratzon Atzmos. He says, but even Kabbalah Soil, is Mamshech Atzmos, it's not Atzmos Mash. Why? Because Kabbalah Soil means that's Sda Bittul. There's a mitzvah of Bittul. But then, so what is Tachlis Kima Mitzvahs? Tachlis Kima Mitzvahs is, it's not about your feelings, and it's not about your Bittul. Rather, it's doing the mitzvah. Why? Because Atzmos can't be Nimshach, not through our mitzvahs, not through our Bittul. Because we don't exist, and our Bittul doesn't exist. Rather, how's he Nimshach? Erevil says Nimshach. So Derech Zeh here, L'cheira, there's Mishpatim, there's Chukim. The Tzad HaShav, Mishpatim, and Chukim is, we're part of the equation. We have a Metzias, or we are Batal. But once you say it's Helam Atzmi, once you say it's Atzmos, in the world of Atzmos, there is nothing other than Atzmos. So there's no you, and there's no the Shlila of you. Right? So Elamai, Vas Ervil. Then you could ask, one second, if the word is Vas Ervil, so Chukim is also Ratzin. So then if they get into Chilukim of what's the difference between this Ratzin and that Ratzin. Right? He doesn't use the Lashon Ratzin. He doesn't say the word Ratzin Atzmos. It's Mamshich, it's Megala Atzmos. It is one with Atzmos. But I'll call upon him. So in that way, you stop right there. The Betzim Sivav not just would be superfluous, but also L'chaira, it's getting in the way. You're looking for where Eidos exists in Metzias Adam. The whole part of Eidos is that there's no Metzias Adam. In Chukim and Mishpat there's Metzias Adam. Mashenke in Eidos is not Atzmos. But this is the part that he comes and says in Sivav. The part that says in Sivav is that just like the chiluk of Eidos Chukim Mishpatim Lemaila is Oira Shaykh Lo Ilamis and Atzmos and Sif Shalom Maila B'Shaychus Lo Ilamis Al Derech Zeh, the person, not only there's Mimala and Soivim, not only there's Chukim and Mishpatim by the person, Sto Eichida Eidos. You are Beferish, a partner in Eidos. So this is a shift. This is very different than Margala. If Margala, the whole Adgash on Atzmos is to be merachik from the human being. There is no you. The whole word is the Eivish there. Does Zakman no? You are the aid. Now, so what's our part here? So the Indian Eidus hu be'adam atzmai. Right. So from Siv Dalid Eidus being the mitzvahs. Now we're saying who's the aid? The person Atem Eida. Atem Eida. You are the aid. Atem is Atem Atzmachem. The Lashon that he uses, this is the end of Sivav, the Kevon Shekol Echad Miyisrael Nishmasa Yichelik Alikam Yimal Mamish, V'sheirish HaNeshames Hu Be'Atzmos, U'Lemayla Yoyser Me'Asherish Teiro Mitzvahs. Right, you have to say Lemayla Yoyser because earlier on in Sif Dal, the Chayro were saying that the mitzvahs are Mushrashim V'Atzmos, right? The mitzvahs are Misyachsim V'Atzmos. So what do you tell me that mitzvah, that Neshames are V'Atzmos? They're higher than the Sheirish. In Atzmos Guf Kiviyachol, Yisrael are higher than Torah. L'chein etzem is used in Yisrael me'ido ala atzmos. So that's the word. And here it sort of flips in this nekudah on Margala, because in Margala, what's the lowest level? The lowest level is Rusa de Liba. Here, Atem Eida is very similar to Rusa de Liba. Right? Atem Eida is as Ayid is mushrish in atzmos and ein zach mit atzmos. And we'll get to that in a second. Not that you're not part of the story. You are the story. So what is Eidos? Eidos, so Mishpatim and Chokim is not the Adam Atzmai. Chokim and Mishpatim is Seichel Adam. Eidos is the Adam Atzmai. In other words, how do I connect to the Eibishter? In Chukim and Mishpatim, it's not me, myself, connecting to the Eibishter. It's my Giluyim. Through my koiches. I use my seichel either to understand him, acknowledge him, appreciate him, or my seichel tells me, chenish verstehen. Right? So I even use my ratzin and Kabbalah Soil and Bittul. The point is, there's a function going on. I'm using tools to connect to the Eibishter. Which basically, this exists in every kesher. In every kesher, when two things connect to each other, so it's usually not the Zach Alein connects to the Tzveite Zach. Because each on its own is its own mitzias, its own entity. Rather, there's something that I'm giving you and you're giving me, right? There's the Chitzoinius. We know that the Pnimius of Yeder Zach stays for itself. The Chitzoinius is what's in skasher to something else. So we can connect through our koiches. In Eidos, if until now, before Siva, ich tracht in Eidos, there's mamish no you, here we say no verkehrt. Eidos, it's only in Eidos where you yourself connect to the Eibishter. Not through a specific avoida, through a specific tnuah. They have to go out of yourself verkehrt. You mit the ganze Metzies, wie du bist, verbindet sich mit den Eibishter. How? Because who is the Etzema Adam? The Etzema Adam is Moshe Shenatzmus. The Etzema Adam, the Etzema von Yid, is ein Zach mit Atzmus. Me'ida ala Atzmus. But now, if this is the case, then our whole starting point, this puts us into a very complicated issue. Because our whole starting point is that the mitzvahs are called Eidus Chukim HaMishpat. And the unique value and milo of mitzvahs, of Eidus, that mitzvahs of Eidus, and by extension, all mitzvahs that have the tchun of Eidus within them, because each one of the mitzvahs, as earlier in the Maamer, each one is betzim Eidus Chukim HaMishpatim, they have the nekuda of Atzmus, from Inzich mit Atzmus. But if the whole word of Eidus mitzad the Adam is that the Adam alein on a tnuah is connected to Atzmus, does not have a special tnuah and yitziyah me Atzmus, so who needs the mitzvahs here? The mitzvahs get in the way. So what's the tnuah? So what's the point of mitzvahs? Ela shagilui the sheirish hanishamu idei Eidus dem mitzvahs. The Eidus of mitzvahs, what they're here for, they're here in the service of the Adam Atzmai. It's not a kesher that's built through Torah mitzvahs. It's a kesher that's niskala through Torah mitzvahs. That expresses itself through Torah mitzvahs. Not that it's built through Torah mitzvahs. Which is connects to the whole sugya of Yisrael and Torah. Right, so Tonet Ve'Eliyo, Gebrach Tasach in the Sichis. So there's conversations with the son. So Retarten that we know that Yisrael and Torah, Bereshis v'Shul Beis Bereshis, that the two Reshis, the things that precede the world are Yisrael and Torah. But then between Yisrael and Torah, mi kadam lemi, who comes first? So he says like this: everyone else says achirim ayimrim Torah kadam, v'ani ayimrim Yisrael kadam. Right? This is a unique take. The simple Havan, the simple take is Torah kadam, v'ani ayimrim Yisrael kadam. So one of the sikhs, there was the whole diuk. It says, what's the big chiddush? Ani ayimrim Yisrael kadam. Of course Yisrael kadam. What's the shayla b'chlal? Because what's the rayas in different midrashim and different gersois, so it brings different psukim, different rayas, kodesh Yisrael Hashem, or tzaves bnei Yisrael, dabra bnei Yisrael, where the Torah itself says that you should tell the Yidden, the Torah is here for the Yidden. Without the Yidden, there won't become Torah mitzvahs. So obviously, Torah is only given because there's the people that they should make it. As someone will say, the Constitution exists before the people came, people came to America, so they had to make a government, so they created rules. There's no rules without people. So of course Yisrael Kadmu. Narva then, that means Zog, and the Pshat Yisrael Kadmu here, and that's a big chiddush, Yisrael Kadmu b'mayla, not in Zman, and not also in cause and effect, meaning, of course, the reason why the rules are here, it's for the people. But Mirzogin, that Yisrael Kadmu Torah, that Yisrael Taka come from a place that are higher than Torah. Pashtos, right? We know that the world is here for Yisrael and Torah, but the Pashtos and Chazal, Lashon goes like this: that Kol Ha'olam Nivra Ela B'Shvili, everything was created for Yid. But then the Gemara goes on and says, Vani Nivresi L'Sham Shas Koyin. So Taka, everything is here for me. So Kodem Lo'elam, Yidden come for everything. But Ani Nivresi L'Sham Shas Koyin. What am I here for? I'm here to serve the Eivishter. I'm here to serve the Eivishter with Torah mitzvahs. So the Eivishter wants a dir b'tach toinim. That's what the Eivishter created the world. In order to make a dir b'tach toinim, dir b'tach toinim happens through Torah mitzvahs. Okay, so he needs poyalim. He needs people to make the dir, to do the Torah mitzvahs. Now, you can't have any yokel doing Torah mitzvahs because they don't understand Torah mitzvahs, they don't know how it works, they don't know the point, there's no motivation, there's no interest, they don't know the nuances. So if them hat men Yidden, the Yidden, it's a Shmosam are connected to the Eibush there, and they understand the need of Dirab Tachtoinim, they understand what it's all, and they're interested in it, and they are the koich of the neshama. So they come and they do Torah mitzvahs and they make the Dirab Tachtoinim. So we're all here for the service of Dirab Tachtoinim, which happens through Torah mitzvahs. That's the pashta of it. But the pnimis inyanim, it's verkehrt. This week I have the sikh, the famous sikh of Erev Yisholcha Nissan Memtes, Mitzayir Tash Memtes. The Rebbe speaks the difference between Yud Nissan and Yisholcha Nissan. The Yud Nissan is the Rebbe Tachtoinim. Yisholcha Nissan is Leidas Am Yisrael. Because Betzim Pesach is Leidas Am Yisrael. Ani Yem Leida Ticha. Cheskel Kapitel Tezayin. But when is the beginning of that? When is the start of Leidas Am Yisrael? On Yud Aleph. Because Yud is when we sort of finish the diras, and we did all we have to do when we get to Ummah Ha'olam. And then after Yud starts the process of Yitzis Mitzrayim Guf of Yidden becoming a nation. So that starts on Yud Aleph. So Aschalas Aleid is Yud Aleph. What's the word of Yud Aleph? So the Rebbe is with Tzayin to Ayin Beis. And Ayin Beis is a Retarum der Indian. And the Lashon Ayin Beis is that there's Pnimi Saratz and Chitzayni Saratz. And Chitzayni Saratz is Dirab Tachtoinim. Pnimi Saratz is Neshama Yisrael. Neshama Yisrael is Pnimi Saratz. Sof Dirab Tachtoinim is here to serve Neshama Yisrael. Be'etzem, what does the Eibishter want? The Eibishter wants Yidden. That's what the Eibishter wants. In order for that to happen, in order for that to happen, you need the avodah, you need Torah mitzvahs. Now, how does that work? When we're based on the Iker is Dirab Tachtoinim, and that's the Tachas HaKavanah von Alts. Fine. So that the Rebbe explains that in Dira there's in Dira Guf there's the Chitzonius Hadira and Pnimis Hadira. But Dira in Ayin Beis the lashon is Dira the lashon is that Chitzonius Haratzin is Dirab Tachtoinim, Pnimis Haratzin is Shamas Yisrael. But from Samach Vav, the Rebbe brings them to get to the Pnimis of the Dirab Tachtoinim, the Machil Shifti Yisbarech, that where is the Dira in the Shamas Yisrael? Meaning it's not Neshamas Yisrael versus Dirab Tachtoinim. It's Neshamas Yisrael are the Pnimius of Dirab Tachtoinim. The ultimate, because where's the ultimate Shoyre? In Neshamas Yisrael. Because the Dirab Tachtoinim in Welt, the Welt itself isn't Ein Zach mit Atzmas. It's in Spatel, becomes completely Miyuchat through Spittel to Atzmas. The Neshamas Yisrael, by Yidden, the Yidden, they are Mamish one with Atzmus Yisbarach. That's Mivur Barichas and Kodei Chelik Tazayin, Sicha Yedua. I'll call upon him. So, Betzim kommt es azay. Der Atem Eida Yidin are the Eidos on Atzmus Yisbarach. Meaning, Yidin are one with the Eibishter. How are Yidin connected to the Eibishter? Not through their mitzvah, not through their bit seichel, and not through their bitl, not through any tnuah. They're miyuchad with the Eibishter. Why? Because Yisrael kotzrichu kol achad. Because that's a mitzvahs. It's not mitzvahs that we're doing mitzvahs for a reason. Rather, that's ochem mit Eibishter. Now, so what does this have to do with the mitzvahs of Eidos? So, right, one, if you have one, what do you need the other one? But the etzem, the Sif Vav is a beer of Sif Dalet. Why? Because if you stay with Sif Dalet, before we come to the Eidos that exists in the Shamas Yisrael, the Eidos of mitzvahs. Mitzad the Eidos of mitzvahs, why do you didn't do the Eidos? Why would I do the Eidos? Right? Because and Eidos, it's not just things that make sense, don't make sense. It's also a question of motivation. What motivates a Yid to do Torah mitzvahs? In other words, was sucht er? So in Mishpatim, was sucht er? In Mishpatim, he's building a relationship with the Eibishter. Right? He's spoiling, my God, no masech, Hashem, Arav masech, Malik ol almin. Kihu chayecha. It's in Chassidus, it's Beinus in Memale, it's Ava b'chol avavcha. This is the life I want to live. And very simple. This is the life I want to live. It's the true laws. It's the emes of Havaya. It's out. It's perfect. My Metzias month. This is the life I want to live. In Chukim, what motivates a person to do Chukim? Why do I do Chukim? I do chukim because a person is pointed in soiv kalalmin, and a person is overwhelmed by the grandeur, by the impossible. Right? There's something here that's completely overwhelming him, and er gets a chibering ganzen. Right? Like a person that enters the Armin HaMelech, stands in front of the king, and is completely bottled, and he loses his mitzias. Whatever the melech, obviously the kiyum ratzon HaMelech, from a place of bittul. So either our relationship, our Yiddishkeit will be miyosed on mitzias or miyosed on bittul. Now, every one of these worlds, mitzias and bittul, have many factions and many ifanim. But even a person can explain it to himself, think with himself, why are you doing what you're doing? It's either because of Kabbalah Soil or because you have a Geshmak. One of the two. Why you do Eidos? The Chassidische Eidos. Because what? Because it's Megala Hela Ma'atzmi Da'asum Seir Seif. So what? But you're not part of the equation. There's no you. You have no shaykhis to it. Not your bittul, not your mitzvah. It's not even your bittul. So what's getting you to do the mitzvah? Why are you doing it? The reason you're doing the eidos is because you're an aid. You're not getting anything out of it. Getting something out of it, either in a oifen of mitzias or bittul, is chokim mishpat, is mala and soiviv. These mitzvahs, du suchst nicht. If you're zuching, as the zuch step is, that's giluyim. You're lacking something, and you need something in your life, right? You see people, even on a very basic human level, not only in Elikus, people are always looking for mitzias, and they're looking for bittul. They're looking for bittul, right? They're looking for mitzias. People look to express self-expression, and people look for leadership. People look to sich übergeben, to a certain cause, right? People are always looking for something beyond Tamadas. That's Seichel Zucht Hecher von Seichel. We're always looking for something that's beyond us, to be mystified, to be. We just had the eclipse lately. People changed their whole schedule and went to all kinds of places. They're very busy. They took the time to see something that we can't make sense out of, something that's crazy, something that's amazing. These are things a mensch sucht. Eidos ich such gar nicht. Rather, I am. That's my identity. That's who I am. That's my whole mitzias. I am one with the Eibishter. And the Eibishter is ein Zach mit the mitzvahs. So the mitzvahs, so I do the mitzvahs. I do the mitzvahs, why? Because that's me. Because ich bin ein Zach mit the Eibishter. And the Eibishter is one Zach with the mitzvahs. So it's all, it's a triangle. It's all one point. It's all one union. So the fact that I am Eidos is what brings me to be Makayim the mitzvahs and oifen of Eidos. A goy obviously has no shaykhs. The goy even soiviv kolalmin yeshlain, if they have any kind of shaykhs, definitely the kudah of doing something mitzad. This is that's musik. So what? So it's on God's turf. It's not my thing. It's him. But a yid is from the Eibishter. So the Eibishter wants it. He wants. It's not even that's in the kudah here. We're not even saying the lashon wants. In Margil, the lashon is the Eibishter vil. Rotzin ha'atzmus. Here we're not saying about the kudah of rotzin. Rotzin for care. Rotzin is very much associated with chukim. The vart isn't rotzin. The vart is, it's made al atzmus. It's him. It's one thing with him. Now the shaila is, okay, but why are the eidos here? The mitzvahs of eidos here. Sai mitzad the Eibishter, sai mitzad us. What's the shaila? We'll start mitzidenu. Mitzidenu, chukim ha-mishpatim I need because there are different forms of relating to the Eibishter. Eidos, what do I need it for? The whole word, I am an aid. I'm already connected to Atzmos. For Giloim, I need mishpatim and chukim. For Atzmos, I'm one with Atzmos. Does Atzmos need something for himself? I live. That's who I am. I don't need something for that, for my etzim mitzias. Al derech zeh, but again to the Eibishter, why does the Eibishter need Eidos? What does that need? Obviously, the Eibishter doesn't need anything, but the nekuda is, the other mitzvahs, it's a form of him building a relationship with us. It's a form of him getting something, right? It's how he's yoyred lo'ilus. The mitzvahs, the eidos, what are they doing there? So Mipash, you could come and say it's on Shaila. It's one with Atzmosei. Just like you don't ask, what's the Eibishter? Why does the Eibishter exist? The Eibishter exists, Yidden exist, and mitzvahs exist. But Be'etzem here, we get into no. In this space, the mitzvahs are here to serve the Yidden. They're here to serve the Yidden. The mashal that the Chazal bring is they have the mashal of a melech that has banim, and he has an Eved Zakin, an old servant. And the Eved Zakin's job is to be mechanech the banim. So it's there the nekuda that the melech has all kinds of possessions, and all very expensive and very tired and very, very precious to him. But what's the most precious possession of the king? The Eved Zakin. Why? Because the Eved Zakin is mechanech the children and brings them to drachim noim and maisim yafim, makes them into chasheve citizens, good people, brings out their milas, and for that the king holds dear the Eved Zakin because it's the most precious possession, because it takes care of his kids. Who are the kids and who's the Eved Zakin? The Medrash has a Maamer dikavart. The children are Yisrael. The Eved Zakin is the Torah. The Eved Zakin is the Torah and mitzvahs. Meaning that the Torah and mitzvahs is the most precious thing by the Eibishter. It says the Eibishter has many possessions. The Eibishter has Shemaim Ba'aretz. The Eibishter has many things. Malach, the Eibishter has many different inyan. What's the most precious thing to the Eibishter? Torah. Why? Because it brings his children to their shleimos, it brings them to Chayei Olam Haba, it brings them to their perfection. So the Maile of Torah mitzvahs, and the reason why the Eibishter cherishes Torah mitzvahs so much, is what it does to the Yidden. What does it do to the Yidden? It brings them to their shleimos. Which shleimos does it bring them to, and why do Yidden need it? L'chayre, they're mushlamim. Lamai, the nekuda is that the neshama, the etzem neshama is made al atzmos, ein zech mit atzmos, but that's in etzem. The shaila is, what's with the Gilui? Right, so here there's a point, later in Sif Zayin, he goes more pratius, that this is the place where Mishpatim and Chukim come into play, that Atzmos shouldn't just stay in Etzem, it should also come into Giluyim. But L'cher Medarv Zogan, that even before we come from Eidos into Mishpatim and Chukim, in the world of Eidos Guf, but there's Etzem and Gilui. There's Etzem and Gilui. That the Etzem is the Etzem and Neshama V'yid, it is the ultimate aid on the Eibishter. But in order for that to come to Gilo, you need Torah mitzvahs. You have the famous Sikha of, this kuf was the beginning of Nissan, Tafshin Nun, Vaikar Tafshin Nun, the Farbrengen was about the Torah of Amzu Yatzarti Li Tilasi Yisaperu. So, the Rebbe explained Kama Ifan in the Pasuk. So first we say Amzu Yatzarti Li Tilasi Yisaperu. There's two nekudas here. Amzu Yatzarti Li is the Etzem Mitzias that Yidden exist. The Eibishter created it. The Eibishter, in Shama from Ayid, even a Guf from Ayid is Eizach mit Atzmosei. And then the second half of the pasuk is their avodah. Tilasi Yisaperu. The avodah that we do, we daven. Tilasi Yisaperu. We say we sing the praise of the Eibishter. When we learn, we do mitzvahs. Our avodah, we're megal the Eibishter in Velt. Then the Rebbe said the Be'etzem Kenzagi in Afilu, you don't have to disconnect the two parts of the pasuk. It's one pasuk. It's one inyan. The etzem fact that Amzu Yatzartili, the etzem fact that Yidden exist, is Tilas Yisaperu, is the biggest sipur, it's the greatest storytelling of the Eibishter's Tehillah. The Rebbe speaks to the Indian that there's many kinds of Nissan. There's Nissan, Lubashim Matev, Nissan, what's in the Kud of Nissan? Nissan is Megala Likusim Veld. People walking down the street, is there Eibishter, isn't there Eibishter? They're thinking about it, they're not thinking about it. You see a nest, it's the Eibishter peeking through and says, here, yeah, there's a nest happening. From all the Nissan that happened, or Megala Likusim Veld, the greatest nest that exists and always and never existed is the Etzem Etzias of a Yid. Megidda Kukaf a Yid, the fact that Yid as a collective, and every individual Yid exists today, with all that we went through and all the persecution, and so many nations fell apart, and the greatest empires aren't around today, the Etzem existence of a Yid is the biggest Tilasi Yisaperu. It's the biggest Eidos on the Eibishter. How do you know God exists? Jewish people. Not what we're doing. It can be a bunch of Yidden that are not, we can't tell mitzvah on Islam, but that's the fact that we exist. So on the one hand, the Etzem fact that the Yidden exist is Eidos on the Eibishter. Obervas. the mitzius, that's mitzad the etzem anishama, the etzem mitzius, the etzem existence, that's the fact that we're here, but we're not living with that reality, right? By a yid legt sich nicht up, it's not in his conscious being, and he doesn't show it to the world. He does. The world sees the Eibishter in him, the etzem mitzius. Or mitzad the yid is not megala that. But what's my mitzius? The Eibishter. When the yid does Torah mitzvahs, what does Torah mitzvahs do? Torah mitzvahs is the eved zaken that brings the child into a proper prince. It doesn't turn the child into something else. Right? When a kid goes and gets educated, and the educator comes and molds the kid into new. The king doesn't want his kids molded into something else. He doesn't want his kid turning into professor, and the Russian mother that gives complete free choice to her kid. Whatever you want, you could turn whatever you want. Either a doctor, either a lawyer. It's all good, right? The king, he wants the kid should be the prince and ultimately be the king. So don't turn it into something else. Erzol Zayin Ve'er it is, but your job is to bring out Zayin Kenigshot, right? To turn him into who he could talk and be, and be Megalid B'Poil. Now comes the problem. 1 second. So the visa was kommt is. The Betzam, we are the Eidos. We're one with Atzmosei. The Etzem Anishama from the Yid. Torah mitzvahs are here to be Megala that B'Poil. But if Torah mitzvahs are here to be Megala, so the Torah mitzvahs are Giluyim. So it's not Etzem. So if Torah mitzvahs is not Etzem, then we're back to square one. So where's the Eidos? It's a Torah mitzvahs. So here we have to say, so obviously it's a very dakastic Indian, because first of all we're getting into, whenever he speaks about it in Maamer, and he uses very subtle language, that kiviyachol in atzmos gufe Yisrael kadmu, right? That you have to say Torah mitzvah is not atzmos mamish, because if Torah mitzvah is here to serve the Yidden, atzmos can't be an emtsoi. Atzmos is mechuyev mitzias, and mitzias both mitzias nimsa. There's no cause and there's no reason for it. It's not here for something. Everything else in this world is here for something else. There's a cause to it, so it's here to serve that purpose, that cause. Atzmos is not emtsoi because we come from atzmos. Yidden are not emtsoi. L'chayra, based off that, Torah mitzvahs comes from atzmos shouldn't be an emtsoi, which by from it's not an emtsoi. But biyachas to Yisrael, it is an emtsoi on that level, because Torah mitzvahs is here to serve the Yidden. So here we have to say that even though it's an emtsoi and it's here to serve the Megal the Yidden, but even this Giloi, it's ein zach mit atzmos. Right, and this is the Nikoda, the famous Sich, Yisholcha, and other Sichas, where even though atzmos isn't about Giloi, right? The etzem fact that it exists, that's what it's all about. It's not about Giluim. But sof, if you say atzmos dar bleiben behelim, then weiter it's not atzmos, because you're limiting him, you're defining him by the fact that he's not begilu. So atzmos alein shreit as darf sein begilu yechet. So in other words, Yidden are mushrish in atzmos, the etzem mitzias of Yidden. But because atzmos can't stay behelim, it's darf come begilui. And how does it come begilui? In the case of a yid, how is the etzem and neshama of a yid? It's miyuchad with atzmos. How does the atzmos in a yid become begilui? Through Torah mitzvahs. So in one way or another, so Torah mitzvahs also becomes part of the equation. It's also part of atzmos. But atzmos mont Torah mitzvahs. Without Torah mitzvahs, it can't be begilui. If it's not begilui, it's not atzmos. Right. So there you go in that kind of circle. So there's this triangle of Yiraisa Yisrael v'Kutchabrichu Kulachad, where on the one hand Yisrael is l'mayla mitayra, and Torah is here for Yisrael. Mitzad sheni, Yisrael need Torah because you could only say Yisrael is mushash and atzmos if they're begil, because like atzmos is begilu, Yisrael has to be begilu. Yisrael is begilu through Torah mitzvahs. So Yisrael and Torah together form this oifen how they're biyachad zusammen they're meyed ala atzmos. The eidos on atzmos is that you have the etzem and the etzem is begilu. But that also is not enough, and this leads to Sif Zayin, that Gilui that happens in Eidos itself, this play between the Eidos of Yisrael and Eidos of Torah is not enough. We need also the Mishpatim and Chukim of Yidden and Torah mitzvahs. That it shouldn't only be the Gilui ha'etzem, it should also be etzem in Gilui mamish. But we'll leave that for next time.